Marcus says that it's his work that, you know, he prepared all the city for us. Yes? Oh, I can see you.
Hello. I just saw.
Remember her?
No, yes.
She was also in the Borderland last year, but maybe you probably have seen her just once.
Okay.
So maybe if you can go up as well, so that everybody can see and hear me a little bit. So it's very small. We are a little bit too many people, but anyway we will manage. So
We are from East Europe. Can we go first?
no first and second. Everybody here now? Okay, good. So we start with the Republik Museum now, and this is our first small attraction. This is like fuel station, so to say, as you can easily see. And what is there for filling up yourself or whomever. You can also read here. This is from the festival which we are doing every year here in our Neustadt, which is rather crazy. Those who have been here before, they know. And so it's a kind of a, how to say, it's not really a street festival, but it happens at the streets, but also in the backyards and things like that. And all those streets you walked around last night and even now, so it's then crowded and overcrowded by 150,000 people walking or standing usually, because you cannot even move in any direction. And so, let's say if you have to get an impression for you, so from my house, Mondfisch, where we gather together, to the Lustgarten, which is our festival within the Republik, I need 1 hour walking, and usually I need 10 minutes. So because you cannot move, and usually it's much more clever to go around outside of Neustadt and to go there to Lustgarten, because then I need 15 minutes, also better. And so and the original, unfortunately, but a reprint from the year 1990 when the Republik was founded, and all these signs were hanged all around the borders of Republik in each street, so which are the entrance to this Neustadt. So. And also watch your steps, because there's also a stripe, a white stripe down there, which was put there in the streets in 1990, white line, so to say, and there was written BRN, like the short story of the Republik, and it was done at each of the streets. Just in 1990, later on, never more again. Unfortunately, I just want to do that, but today it's relatively illegal. In 1990, nobody was interested whatever you paint on the street. Today it's just like more or less maybe flash mob we will do one day. And outside here also at the wall left hand, when you step, before you step in, there's also our... Ja, dann lauf doch einfach los, das geht von alleine an. Das geht von alleine an. Und ich bin ja gerade im Vortrag, sorry. And this is our constitution, and the constitution is newly introduced since 2000, I don't know, 10 or 11, whenever we figured out to do that. And it's just a basic law how to behave at the festival in the moment, but we still developing it. So it will be a little bit more. Yeah, okay, then let's move in. Most important things we collected, but there are many more in the archive, as in usual in every museum. And maybe first I tell you a little bit of story, and then you can watch around what you see here. And so the story in 1990 was that Neustadt was in an absolutely catastrophic state of the buildings, especially, so they were very old. Because due to the communist government, they did not took good care for the houses, because in the Eastern times it was more easy to build new, like this concrete blocks, cheaper and looks better, like everywhere in Eastern Europe you can see that. And after the Second World War here in Neustadt, the buildings belonged to the state, of course, like under communism time, and they did not any effort to keep them in somehow houseable state, I would call it. And so the
they was destroyed after the war, yeah, or not? They was destroyed after the war?
No, it was not destroyed. And just the old town was destroyed, and Neustadt was not destroyed.
Okay.
Not so much. I mean, you have some gaps here in between, but not so much.
Destroyed by communists, no?
No, yeah, it was by that, because they did not took any effort to that, so it was more or less, how to say, passively destroyed, we call it. And so, while before the war, or until the war, these were at least flats for workers and such people, so also very slim, tiny flats and stuff. And after the war, step by step, so the workers found new flats in these concrete blocks outside, somewhere in the suburbs. And so Neustadt was step by step empty, but due to the pressure that there were not enough flats for everyone to live in, and due to the mismanagement of the communist system to find everybody a flat and stuff, things like that, is like centralistic system, I would call it. And so there was still pressure for people to find some flats, and they took these ones, the old ones, very old ones. Then they put many efforts, not so much money, because it was not so expensive in Eastern German times, but the problem were materials. Because materials you could not buy, like in the Baumarkt we call today, because there was none, and it was just to get just through relations. So something like if you need a tube, you get the tube from somebody who you know, and just exchange to something you could offer. And so, this as it was, the Czechs remember, of course, the same system in Prague. And so by that it was more or less, how to say, accepted that they live here, not official, not really legal, but they took the flats somehow, and the state not really took care, and they said, okay, if you do on your own and do not ask for or request for something to restructure here, then they let them live here. And by this point, so it was like really relatively grey quarter of the town, not so lively and funny as you see now, and colorful. And so they stepped in mostly at the first those groups who were by the state absolutely unaccepted, artists in that case, oppositional artists mostly, like Holger, you know him, you saw him. This was one of the first guys who came here in the 70s and took a flat, a very nice one by the way, here illegally, and lived there until
You should ask
2
him
years
about
ago,
guests,
and,
go to guests.
because he came from the prison actually, so that's the point. And many other people, I would say not artists, but just simple criminals came here and lived here, due to the same reason. And so this was like the structure in the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, due to the revolution. And last action the communist system undertook was in 1988. So they released some plans to completely crash the Neustadt and build complete blocks here. So they were, they had the streets will remain, but they built completely concrete blocks here. Looked awful, to be honest, and then thanks God the revolution came, or we made it, so to say. And so this was, this structure was kept, and then started this process, which is nowadays called as gentrification until today. And so the houses were renewed, of course, now look better, and now you can also live better here. But then step by step in the 90s it was not so critical anymore, because they just did some basic renewing, which was quite okay to live here and quite cheap still. And that was the step when it was mostly accepted by students, young people, and this development brought also this development with all these pubs and bars and clubs you nowadays find here. And so me, myself, and I also came back to Neustadt in those days as a student. And I'm actually born here in Neustadt as well, so just in the hospital close here, or close to here. And so, and I also came back, and the flat costs me, I would say, a quarter to that what I pay now. And so, and due to this process, like this gentrification now, the rents are really rising, and still are not at the end. And I don't know, I pay for my one room, I pay 260 euro now, which is 20 something square meters. It's not so cheap. And okay, I mean, I live really at the center of Neustadt, okay, but still, and wherever you want to live here, especially in the more quiet streets, it's even more expensive. And so this maybe about Neustadt so briefly, and now now here are living more like families and those people who have the money to live here and to find it to be cool to be here, to be a cool Neustadt guy, and coming mainly from Western Germany, students with rich parents, of course, such, and studying, I don't know, juridical stuff or whatever. And so these guys, and so become a little bit strange for us, and the original Neustädters, they still have some of the niches. One you saw yesterday is in Mondfisch, one of the most beloved thing. Another one we will see later on in the Hotel de Hotel, or however it's called. And there are a few of these, 5 I would say, 5 or 6 maximum, where the real Neustädters gather, and the other bars are for tourists, for those guys who need to waste their money. And the other story is then the Republik Neustadt, let's say, festival itself. And it was as I said, in 1990. All those people who lived here, they had an idea what will come up. So they had not only a vision, but they had concrete idea that exactly this, what happened, will follow. And so they gathered and said, okay, we do not want this reunification with the Bundesrepublik Deutschland, because they say, okay, if it's coming, then the rents here will explode. And finally they are true. And that's why they said, okay, we declare independent from this, and it was in June, and the reunification was on 3rd of October. And so they said, okay, we declare Independence Day, then was the 3rd weekend somehow in June, which still is the traditional day or weekend for our festival. And they started, how you start the public, it's clear, you need a government, you need a flag. The flag actually is here. It's like the former GDR flag. And at the front you have this Mickey Mouse, and in the original one, which disappeared and nobody has it anymore, was another symbol like this.
Yeah, I know.
Starter zum Flugschauen, I don't know in English, like a sword, which is used for agriculture. Like this was.
Серп и молот. Серп и молот in Russian.
Nee, not sickle.
Like for grass,
no,
yeah?
Just to put on the earth. But this was a symbol in the formerly GDR for the peace movement from the church, so also kind of, how to say,
Pitchfork?
Nee.
Лопата, что ли? Да, лопата.
The one you put in the ground for breaking the ground.
It's like a plow.
For breaking the ground.
A plow. Yes,
Yeah.
a plow.
This was a symbol, so swords to these things, so it was a symbol for the peace movement. And in the GDR, by the church running, so also like subversive thing. And nowadays we just use the one with the Mickey Mouse, which is still symbolic enough. And they also had, as I said, the government, which was, of course, with a couple of ministers for different funny, how to say, obligations. So it was also done with a lot of humor, of course. And I don't know, I thought it was written there. Doesn't matter. And but our government had not a long breathtaking as usual in Eastern Europe too. And so they resigned already after immerhin 7 years. So since those days we don't have any government anymore, and it's not needed anyway, because the character of the festival is still the same. So everybody can do in front of the house whatever they want. which sounds for, especially for festival managers, incredible that we have such a big festival, no central coordinator, no peer, no PR, no sponsoring, no nothing, because there is no central organizer who you can ask, and everybody is trying its best in front of the house. And this is also the limitation. So it's not allowed for anybody here who is not living here to organize something at this festival. So, because otherwise big organizers from somewhere will come and overtake the whole festival.
That's nice.
Yeah, nice on one hand. On the other hand, it has a lot of organizational covers for us, and for our GEMA, for instance. Yeah, because they need to go to the 300, I don't know how many single organizers we have, and ask them for the money. You know? And also has advantage in that case.
Who provides toilets? Who provides toilets?
Yeah, this is another big problem, for instance, because everybody is selling beer to make money, and nobody is thinking about such things. And so it has a couple of difficulties. The same as with the
In
music.
Spain, this is normal. Valencia, festival, 5 days drinking on the street, but toilet, nobody cares.
Yeah,
Everything
but
smells because it's not raining.
Another problem is the noise. I mean, the limitation is until 1, and then everybody has to finish. But you can imagine if you have I don't know, Prisenstraße number 8, you have a big stage, and Prisenstraße number 10, just aside you have another big stage, it doesn't work anyway. Or you have a stage there, and the opposite you have a techno tower, and they fight each other, so these things happen annually. And nobody has a right to make a decision, because both are allowed to do so.
What about police? They can come at 1, and they say stop it.
Yeah, with the police, this is another story I also wanted to tell later. And so this is, first of all, more or less about the structure, and this festival then after 1990 developed and was very attractive for many, let's say, more alternative people that came here, also from other cities, and so it grew and finally exploded until today. So 150,000 people in the streets is really not funny. I mean, also even from security reasons, safety stuff, and all these things, it's not so funny. And we had then it was 1999, as far as I remember, kind of an initiative was created, and they tried to more centrally organize this festival. And but many of the, let's say, more, how to say, anarchy people, they did not accept, of course, and then we had really big street fights here. So, because police was always taking care a little bit for the festival, not too much before, but they had, of course, some more policemen than normal here and such things, but as it was always a little bit anarchy festival, and also the punks had their place where they battled with the police. It was tradition. Anyway, but in 1999 it was really, I don't know how to say, street fight or civil war or something, and the police overrun us here with 40,000 people and tried to somehow disperse the festival, the other 100,000 people, and so you can imagine it was really like in a civil war situation, and it was followed even worse than the next year, because police brought even more people, and even more people came here to fight with the police. I mean, such tortured groups, which we do not really want to have here, even as organizers, of course. And so it somehow escalated then in the next 3 years, and then the police changed the strategy to de-escalation, and that worked finally. And so nowadays it's completely peaceful since, I don't know, nearly almost 10 years, so there are no, besides smaller struggles. So it's peaceful again, and it's also very nice and important for us as organizers, of course. And police is just surviving that, and cooperating even with us, with the organizers, with some of the biggers they know. And in 2009, due to the 20th anniversary, 2010, we also founded a new initiative, but more bottom-up thing, and to release the new passports, which you can see over there. The old ones are up the green and the red one, the blue ones are the current ones. and also to introduce this BRN museum and a couple of other activities. And so now this circle is more or less also open to discuss with the city administration, with the police, and all these authorities who simply need not somebody who they can put on contract for the festival, but they can just simply ask about the atmosphere in the Neustadt. For them it's important, because in the office they do not know what's going on here. And the administration, they're coming anyway. And since those days we have this so-called Schwafelrunde, which is now also called itself like a improvised provisoric government, and so I'm also there, and so reliable or responsible for the they are responsible for the external affairs, so the connections with other of such crazy republics, because we are not the only ones. So NSK, maybe the Balkans know NSK from NSK Leibach related stuff. These guys, and we have another one in Vilnius, Ushupis, which is very known. As I remember, I see. Yeah, and these things, and this is under my responsibility. Others are doing other stuff, very good. And yeah, and that's it. And so the things you can see, as I explained already, like the passports, show the new movie, which is done from the first Republik festival. The Neustadt money, which was in power in 1990, and then not anymore because it disappeared. Someone took it. They have an idea who it was, but it's not confirmed. And